Hi, everybody. Happy Thursday and welcome to Adaptable Entrepreneurs with me, your host, Lisa Kipps-Brown. And my guest tonight is Stacey Fox. She is actually a friend of my cousin's. My cousin Christina, who was on the other week, if y'all saw the show with the medium, Christina was in, she was in the background. And she lives in Des Moines where Stacey lives, and they actually work together some. And Christina set it up for Stacey to be on my show. So Stacey, I'm so excited that you're here. Her business is Stacey's Bridal, Prom, and Mastectomy Center. So Stacey, I want you to introduce yourself. Tell them about your background, kind of how you got to where you are today. And then we're going to dig into all the really good stories that you have to tell.
Okay, well, I kind of have a funny story. So yes, I live in Des Moines, Iowa. I graduated college from Bridal University. And instead of going home to St. Louis, which is where I grew up, I took a job and moved to Des Moines, Iowa for 1 year. I was only going to be here for 1 year.
A famous last word.
I had a boy, and that changed. But I needed a really good bra, and there was not a bra store in Des Moines, Iowa that did that. And so I was here for 1 year and then opened up my own business. $183, opened up a small little bitty business and have not looked back. I've kind of ebbed and flowed and grown and changed and morphed. And I'm pretty lucky that I have a pretty mainstay business in Iowa now.
Well, look, we have Christina popped in. Hey, Chris.
Christina.
Actually, Christina, if you have your camera and want to come on, I can invite you. I think if I can figure out how to do it.
Christina knows me quite well. We've gotten to be really good friends. So
yeah, I've heard so much about you. So I'm so excited to meet you. But I didn't realize that you started it as a regular bra store. I thought it started out as a mastectomy center.
Well, those were together. So it was a regular bra store with a mastectomy center. And if there was just nothing servicing those women. And this was in 1993. And I had grown up in that industry, and I knew what women should be getting and how they should be getting taken care of. And I was like, that's not happening. Des Moines is a pretty big city, and we don't have any of that. And so I also just prayed really hard about it. And I knew that that's kind of what God put me on this earth. It took me about 8 years to figure that out, though. That's kind of what God put me on this earth to do. And so I love every day that I get to feel my passion.
That's awesome. But so the 8 years, was it after you started it and it took you 8 years to figure it out? That's what you mean?
Yeah, because I honestly, okay, so you can see over my back of my shoulder, I have this faith over fear. I've lived my whole life that what's the worst that's going to happen? Like, so when I started my own business, I saw a need and I was like, what's the worst that's going to happen? I will start this business. If it fails, I'll go back to work for somebody else. I mean, that's just what's going to, but I knew that people weren't getting taken care of. I just didn't know that that's what God put me on this earth. I don't think I was mature enough to realize that everybody has a purpose and a passion. And then I kind of figured that out. So,
and I want the audience to understand, you know, most of us, we just think of a bra, buy a bra, you know, flap it on, just whatever, go about our business. But the mastectomy part of your business is so hugely important to women. And you actually also speak to surgeons, right, to help them understand about reconstruction. Is that right?
To surgeons, but to support groups, to women's group. I mean, just breast health in general. I helped start a charity called Bras for the Cause, where we provide free breast and cervical cancer screenings for women in Iowa because there wasn't enough funding and it wasn't something that was readily available. Well, most breast cancers are curable if caught early. And women just didn't understand that nor have that thought process. A lot of that comes with, if you get a good bra, get a bra fitting starting at an early age, you're more in tune to your breasts. And so you're going to understand and see those changes that could be easily caught for the beginning stages of breast cancer.
That's so interesting because, like I said, most of us, we just take a bra for granted. It's kind of like,
probably lucky walk in and just one fits you off the rack. I mean, first of all, 95% of all the women out there are wearing the wrong size bra. So if you've never been fitted for a bra, it's kind of life-changing to have somebody actually measure you and put you in a bra. You're probably not the size that you think you are. But more importantly, there's a huge segment of the population out there that don't fit in a traditional sized bra and need help with that. Now, add on that you've had a left breast or a right breast removed, or you've had part of a breast removed. You just don't know what to do. And the options, if you look at a book or online, or you're going to order something online, they're very limited. When you come to a specialty store like mine, we can take any bra and make it work for you. So you don't feel like, I got to have an ugly surgical bra. We want to have just the same experience bra-wise that any other woman would have.
That's so cool. And, my nephew is, well, first of all, the men that are listening, they're probably like, oh my God, I didn't know we were going to be talking about bras. But look, y'all, this is a big picture thing. So put up with the bras for a few minutes.
That's how it started. I mean,
yeah.
Funny. But it moved into the rest of the stuff. Like, so I would have women bring their wedding dresses to me. They were getting married on Saturday, and the local wedding shop, it didn't fit right. And they bring them to me, and I would put girdles or make girdles, or praise the sisters that taught me in my Catholic high school how to sew. I would actually resew dresses. And I did that for about a year until my business expanded so much that I needed to move. Well, my husband was so tired of hearing me talk about this wedding shop didn't order the right size dress, so it doesn't fit this woman, or they don't understand boobs, and so it doesn't fit this woman. That when we were moving spaces, there was this beautiful loft, and he said, you should rent that out to a bridal store. Instead, I was like, why don't I just open one?
Oh, that's cool.
That's kind of the birth of the formal wear. I mean, every step and every change in my business has been kind of funny. And then I'm ready to open up the bridal store. I'm just buying pretty things because I didn't know how to do it. I never worked in a bridal store. I never worked in a formal wear store. I was really not that girly growing up. I mean, really not. And I was getting hamburgers for all the crew that were working on my thing. And these two cute teenagers were there. And I'm like, I'm opening a bridal store on Saturday, and I think I might need some help putting away dresses. Again, no clue. Dumb. Didn't have a clue. And they said, oh, we'd like to work in a bridal store. I said, you're hired. Come.
Funny.
Now. And I mean, they ended up working for me all the way through high school, but they're the ones who then saw these books that came in the mail and said, we want to order prom dresses. Well, they ordered 40. The next year I said, come to market with me. We sold 40. I'm going to let you buy 80. And then, because that's how much money I had from selling the 40. I didn't spend any of the money. So they bought 80. And the next year I'm like, all right, we just sold 500. How about if I let you buy 500? They're like, what? I said, yeah, I'll buy 500. And the next year we sold 1,200. And then they're like, I'm like, I think that this business is taking off. Like, I think I'm a prom store. I don't think
that's amazing.
That's how it went from there.
I love how you keep your mind open. You're always open, always looking, and because most people they're in their lane, they have their blinders on, and they would never think, oh, I can do that too. Or the other thing that most people do is they try to do too much for the wrong reasons. I
just figured, what was the worst case that's going to happen? It doesn't work out, and I go to work for somebody else. I've been saying that every day for 30 years. What's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I think is so interesting, you have a traditional business, traditional brick and mortar business.
Correct.
You have clients all over the country, right?
I do. I have clients that fly in all the time, just because I have a pretty large brick and mortar business. And I'm kind of at the point now where I'm probably going to turn back. I'm at the point, I'm like at the pinnacle where I need to start maybe taking away some of that space, back to the one-on-one, because I'm spread a little bit too thin. But I have clients from all over, and I just done a lot of dresses for the Grammys and Oscars and things like that, and it's just word of mouth. People hear and want to have me take care of them, I guess.
That's what I was going to ask. So so it's pretty much all word of mouth, all the national stuff. It wasn't through advertising or anything.
I didn't do any advertising. I had a line for quite a few years. I designed my own line because I really needed something private in the market. Being a large traditional brick and mortar store, I would get a lot of people that would come in and try my items on and then click on their phone. It wasn't really phone for the last couple of It was
No,
going
Amazon.
ordered on the
Yeah.
internet. It was really pre-Amazon, and would order it online or would call around and find a better price or whatever they. So I knew that I needed to create a market within my market that allowed me to have a product they couldn't find anywhere else. So I found we teamed up with another store. We went to China. We found a factory. We created and designed all our own dresses, and we did that for a few years, where it kind of forced the industry to then put private lines into their own lines so that they had their stuff that they advertised, but they had this stuff that us traditional stores could have in our store that you're not going to find anywhere else, which was really, really important for the bottom line. An advertised dress generally costs on average of $200 to $700 more just because the factory has to advertise it. And that's really expensive. I wanted something that I could value out a little bit differently where I could make that money. Survive on Keystone. You're seeing all of the big brick and mortars. Look at how many department stores are closing because they're having to compete on price, and you can't do that.
Yeah, you can't.
There's
always going to be
don't compete on price. People shouldn't come to my store looking for the cheapest dress because they're going to get the best value here.
Yeah,
and that includes us.
So you do the design and then you have it manufactured but then y'all customize everything and fit the person.
We did that. That's how I kind of got you asked me, how do people find me? That's kind of how I made my mark and people found me. That just wasn't my passion. It wasn't, having that business was a very necessary part of how my store grew and how I was able to become the store that I am. But I didn't really vibe, for a teenage word, on doing all of that. I hated it. I didn't like traveling overseas. I didn't like being away from my family. I didn't like a lot of the stuff that came with it. But I was able to be one of the people that forced the companies into creating their own private lines. So then what we do is we have in-house alterations now. Because I have that expertise, we're customly creating dresses. Like we hand created dresses for Miss USA. We're in the process of designing now the dresses for Miss Teen and Miss USA. And we'll do that all in-house, and we'll leave the production in the United States for those. But I gained a lot of expertise and knowledge, and people found me from other people wearing my dresses that maybe were dispersed in other stores, which is kind of cool.
That is cool, and especially because you're in Des Moines. Because people think fashion and they think New York.
I didn't say that.
It's
we are all connected. We are all one big city. There are some amazing fashion designers that have come out of Des Moines, and a lot of that comes. So it used to be that Iowa or the Midwest was a year or two behind New York or California. But with the internet, everything's immediate. So there's not really a change in trend. What you're seeing in London is generally in the United States within weeks. And so that's not changed. And you don't have to be from a specific geographic region to be talented. And so we have some amazing designers that have come out of this area. And I think probably I was able to do more because I was able to find help cheaper. I was able to have photographers that would not cost me $8,000 for a shot.
Yeah.
In Iowa.
That's so cool. But and you've offered so much opportunity to other people that have helped them get their start.
I hope so. I'm not an easy person to work for, and nor should any business owner be easy to work for, because I have very high standards. I expect you to work like I work. Like I expect you to have the same honesty, integrity, the same level of commitment to your consumer. And I want you to model after me. I mean, unfortunately, I named the store after myself. But because of that, I've had a lot of employees, interns, people come back and say, working for you is hard, but we learned so much that we were able to land this job, or I'm the best employee at the job I work now. Like some of my employees, those very first employees, one of them ran Arrowhead Stadium. I mean, people are running big corporations, not because of what I taught them, but because I set them up to have high expectations for themselves in their job, whatever that job is.
Yeah. It's like they got to college degree in self-motivation and management and everything.
Well, and we can do everything. Like I have an amazing person who works for me, and he owns his own line, and he owns his own stores in Minneapolis now. And he started with me when he was 16, and I let him do everything. He helped me design. Like I was very fortunate to have him. Like he is so creative, but I was very fortunate to have him as part of my team. But he saw all the nitty gritty. He saw how we spend hours tagging the dresses and making sure the numbers line up and creating the line sheets, and why I was so picky about the names of the colors, and how important all of those steps were, because it made all the rest of the process easy. And so now he's implementing a lot of that. Like the best compliment I was ever given was when he left me, when I said, I think you need to go work for somebody else for a while. And he went down to Florida and put all of my strategies and all of my managerial things into place in that store. He goes, I got there and they were a hot mess, Stacey. So I changed all of their systems to yours. And I thought that was like the best compliment I could have ever been given.
He is. And it's so cool that he's in Minneapolis now and owns his own store, you said. And that's got to be fulfilling to you, though, to see the people that you've groomed and mentored, see them growing up. And it's almost like your own kids, I guess.
Well, and you know something, for the longest time, you didn't get to follow them. You didn't get to track them. Now with Facebook, when you're friends with all of them, I feel like I still am part of all of their lives, and they're getting married, they're moving on, and they're doing things. And like, I look at these girls I worked with, and they're like, yeah, we were so tired every Saturday, but we gave our customers the best service there was. So, but it's all really fun. And I've, people have gotten married who've met in my store, and have friends that are lifelong friends. You spend a lot of time together in our store. So, yeah.
So how many kids do you have?
I have 6 kids. I'm very fortunate, and I have 4 grandchildren and 1.
Oh, wow.
So I'm kind of stepping, we kind of talked about this a little bit differently, but I'm kind of stepping into a different time zone in my life. I'm moving into a different arena work-wise, where I'm starting to think about where is the exit strategy? What's the timeline? And for me, I know that that's going to be probably a shift to going back to being small, realizing that I don't have to have an 18,000 square foot store to be a successful business owner. And how can I service my customers in maybe a smaller footprint, something that gives me some time to go visit my grandchildren and have a life that for a while I didn't have, because I wasn't a very good separator.
Oh yeah, I have that problem too. It's like life, work, everything blends too much. But that's one of my passions, is helping people adjust and adapt their business to their different life stages. Because I've gone through so many different things, but raising my kids, taking care of father-in-law with Alzheimer's, then my mother, homeschooling my kids, just one thing after another. And it's like every phase that you're in, you need to dip in whatever a little bit,
And most business owners don't own their businesses for 30 years. Like most of the people who are in my genre are in their 60s and 70s. Like I had the hardest time finding a peer group when I opened up my business, because most people who were starting businesses were in their 40s. Well, I was like 22. So people would ask me where my mom was. I mean, people would come into the store and like, oh, we want your mom to help us. And I'm like, well, she's in St. Louis.
Sorry.
She can help you in about 9 hours. I'll call her. So even though I'm at a point where my business is going to see a little bit of a change, most of the people who are in my actual friend group are looking at, how do I start a business? Now for me I finally have enough money that I can invest in a business. And I'm like, I've been doing that for 30 years. Like it's a different mindset. And so I applaud you, because business owners and people do need to realize that your business has to be a reflection of what's going on in your personal life, or it'll never be successful. If you can't meld the two, it doesn't work.
Right. And I think that's why so many businesses go under. Very, very few businesses make it even 5 years. And you've been, what do you say, 30?
Almost 30, yeah.
Yeah. And I've been in business 25 years. So, that's a long time to have both of us owning a business that long. We're rare. We're unicorns, Stacey.
We are unicorns. But the one thing is most of those businesses are owned by women, because we treat our businesses as a second or third or fourth or fifth, or in my case, a 7th child. So we treat it and groom it and grow it like we would be growing somebody who is a part of ourselves. And we aren't. And the opposite end of that is sometimes we don't know when to get out, because we treat our businesses like our child and part of our family, and we don't know when to cut the arm or the leg off. Most men they think very strategically, and it's just it's a business decision and walk away.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot to be said about women business owners and their success rate, because we are successful because we put every ounce of our being into our businesses.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to talk a little bit about, my followers know that I have a real passion for business, not just being about money, not just being about business, and business for a higher cause. And so I want to talk a bit about some of the things you mentioned. One of the things that you had done. I want to talk about some of the really cool causes that you have started or contributed to, and some of the things that you've done to help people in other areas of even the world.
Okay, well, what the problem is, I'm not really a person that can say no. So if it's a cause, I usually get on board. But but I have to preface it by saying that I've tried to live my life with faith, and I truly believe that God has given me the gifts and the resources that He's given me to be a good steward and to use those. It's not my money, but it's money He's giving me to use while I'm here on this earth. I truly believe that. So when I am presented with a great cause, I have to figure out a way to help fund it.
Yeah.
I have been so blessed from the wedding side to be able to help start and fund with dresses and formal wear and resources that I had at hand, some businesses in Peru and some of the other impoverished areas where they are starting businesses selling and renting out bridal dresses, doing weddings. Because, for example, like in Peru, they time out of the orphanage at the age 18. And so if they don't have a job, generally they go into prostitution, or if they're not married. Well, this is teaching women how to be able to be entrepreneurs and to have a job and an income and create that. Plus, also, there's not a lot of pretty wedding dresses there to get married in.
Oh, I imagine.
And the sanctity of that institution is so important to me. That if they can get married and feel a part of that unit, then they'll never be on the street, which is really nice and important to me. So that's one thing. I started Bras for the Cause. One of my really great friends, Dr. Christy Taylor, and I helped create a charity where we actually auctioned off decorated bras along with other items, and raised money for the state of Iowa for free breast and cervical cancer screenings. I've worked with Race for the Cure. Like, I've always tried to do stuff that was really near and dear to my heart. But I do a Princess Project and Project Prom. A lot of those items, I have that coming up April 1st and April 8th, where anybody who needs a dress for free can have one.
Oh my gosh. So how do you, if they just show up and say, I need a dress, you give it to them, or do they need to qualify in some type of way?
Well, I work with, on that I'm working with Project Prom, and they've contacted most of the schools in Dallas County.
Okay, gotcha.
And they kind of have an idea.
Yeah.
But just because somebody on the outside, we kind of talked about this, lives in a big house or drives a fancy car, this year has been really crazy. A lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people don't have any extra expendable income. I never want somebody not to go to prom because they didn't have the outfit to wear.
That is so sweet. And I don't mean that. It's so amazing. And I never went to prom, but.
Well, you could come up and we can go to adult prom, and then.
Yeah. But to people who do go, it's such a big deal. And
it's huge.
Yeah. And I just think.
I think it's the second most important dress you'll ever wear in your life. The first one is your wedding dress. The second one is your prom dress. I just am very fortunate that I get to be a part of a lot of women's lives for the two most important days in their life.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So yeah.
And that you get to be a part of their lives in one of the hardest times that they'll ever go through. Yeah. But you get to be there and be a positive thing in that. My nephew is a makeup artist, and one of the stores that he used to work at, an elderly man brought his wife in. I don't think she had cancer. Something had happened to her and she couldn't do her own makeup anymore. It might have even been dementia or something.
I heard this.
I'm
gonna cry. And he wanted to put it on her.
My nephew to teach him how to put on her makeup. Isn't that just the sweetest thing? Sorry.
That's all right. That's called that's like
just
We're
so amazing. And that's when my nephew came home and he told my sister, he said, "Oh my gosh, now, he loves makeup, loves working with makeup, loves making up people." But he said for the first time ever, he had realized the real importance of makeup. It's not just a shallow thing.
and the bigger thing is I hope in that moment he realized why he was put on this earth.
Yeah.
Even if it was just for that half an hour encounter, that is exactly why he was given the talents that he was given with makeup, to help that particular man in that particular stage of his life be able to move on.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it comes down to. He was helping give closure. And we kind of feel the same way. Like you have a lot of people, and they obviously, you hear the whole bridezillas, the crazy things like that.
Yeah.
Generally, it's because something else is going on in their life.
Right.
You just need to listen and say, all right, what's going on? Let's talk about this. What's going, we get to hear a lot and get to be a part of a lot of their stories. But I'm just really fortunate that I get to be creative and fun and exciting almost every single day of my life. But for me, I've realized over the years that my passion has stemmed back into being in the mastectomy room and working one-on-one with those customers and making sure that I can help them through that journey, because it's hard and difficult, and you're bombarded with so much information that you don't know even what to begin or what to feel or what to say or what to do. And then you're also expected to know everything as a mastectomy, breast cancer survivor, because of the internet. And most of these women don't. So,
Yeah. And there's so much information out there. Even if you go out on your own and look, you're like you said, you're bombarded. You don't know what to believe, what not to believe. And the fact that you work with the surgeons and from that angle helps so many people as well.
Well, I think it's important to understand I'm not a medical doctor.
Yeah.
I can fit anything, and I'm very good at that. But I don't understand, why are they doing the stitching the way they do it? Why? And so the more conversations I can have with them, or the more I can educate them on just dumb things. Like I went to the doctors and I'm like, I think I need to speak to a few of you, because you're putting drainage tubes. So I don't know if you know anything about breast cancer, but when you have your breast removed, you have a drainage tube because the fluid has to drain out for a while.
Uh-huh.
Well, the way they were placing it, once the drainage tube was out, it was right where the bra band goes.
Oh, God.
I guess, I know that's the easy spot for you, but can we move it an inch? And the doctors were like, why? And I said, let me just show you. So when I was like, they're like, yeah, wow. We didn't realize that was like a debilitating thing for a lot of women, because it's like, it takes like a year for that to heal.
Wow.
And now you're putting pressure on it from the band of a bra. If we can make those changes together, and the only way that works is communication. They're not experts in bras. I'm not experts in their surgery, but if we can figure out a way together to be best for our people, our patients, then that makes a huge difference.
That is such a great example. I'm sorry, what?
I said, what? I'm willing to go to fight to the insurance companies for coverage. We're really lucky. The lady who started the making insurance companies cover breast products was from this area. And so, yeah, it's amazing that they didn't. And the thing about what you were talking about with the doctors, it's like most of them are men. They wouldn't know. Why would they have no way of knowing? And that's what they've always done. They just have never looked at it from another perspective. And so every once in a while, I'm like, all right, let me just give you a different perspective. If you do it this way, this is what my outcome. And I know I'm a small little cog in the wheel, but if I can make the women happier, it's better. So.
That's such a great example of collaboration, which is another thing that I always preach to people. And I tell them it doesn't have to mean collaborating as in marketing and making money together, but figuring out ways to help each other and learn from your knowledge. And so that's a wonderful example of that you each learn from each other.
And most collaboration, you're a woman, I'm a woman. Most collaboration is actually a food for your soul. I like collaborating because people bring me up, and I feel good when people take my ideas and take my tidbits. That gives me fuel to oh, okay, maybe I am all right. Okay, yay.
Yeah, you're right.
Have another day, kind of a thing. So I don't know, but I know that I'm at a point in my life that I would love to pass the bridal and prom store on to somebody who's really excited and ready to do. So if you know anybody who wants a really good bridal and prom store, I'm ready to pass it on.
Okay, y'all, you heard it here. Stacey's been doing it for decades, and you couldn't buy a better business or have a better person to learn.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's just I have to make the decision, as all business owners do. Yeah. Am I ready to personally change to fit the changing market? Like, my consumers changes all the time, and I was young, and I think that's why it was really easy, because I was younger, so I kind of understood them. Well, now I'm really the mom of that age group.
Yeah,
I don't understand them at all anymore.
Yeah, and also when we're young, because we are ignorant, everything is easier because we're like, oh, whatever. We don't have as much fear.
Yeah.
We don't have as much fear because we don't know enough to be afraid. But like you said, also, oh, what's the worst that can happen? I fail. And there's so many people who are afraid of failing. But your story is so great.
It's not a matter of failing. It's a matter of learning to move on to the next thing. Like, you have to be a failure. Like, you have to have screwed things up to figure out how to do them right.
Yeah.
There's not a person out there, and there's nobody with a good business out there that hasn't failed at least a couple of times.
Yes, it's impossible. It's impossible. If you have not failed, you haven't learned anything, and you haven't pushed yourself, you haven't grown, you're staying at whatever the comfort level is of just existing.
I'm really lucky that in the last few years, I've not had to worry about my mortgage payment or worry about eating macaroni and cheese. But I remember the first 5 years, there were a lot of decisions my husband and I had to make. Are we going to pay the mortgage payment or the rent payment in my business? I mean, we learned a lot. We had a lot of trying times, a lot of failures, but you just pivot. You just have to say, okay, wall, pivot, wall, pivot, wall, pivot. And if you're not willing to pivot, you shouldn't be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, don't just keep walking into the wall like the little toy that you wind up that keeps.
You have to pivot. Pivot has to be in your vocabulary.
Yeah. Does your husband, has he always worked as an employee? Does he own a business? What does he do?
Well, we've done a little bit of everything. We've kind of been a great team together because we have a big family. So he's always been a part of my business. And for a few years there, when there were a lot of kids in school at one time, he did a lot of the work, a lot of the paperwork out of my business, because that way he could be there for them all the time.
Yeah.
But no, he's also an entrepreneur himself. He's been a real estate agent. He's been a sales manager. He's a pretty smart cookie. And so now he works for a big national company as their sales manager, and kind of like an entrepreneur, because when you're a real estate, it's kind of like your own thing all the time.
Yeah.
So he has that similar mindset, but he's polar opposite from me. I'm like, wah! And he's very calm, and he just steady Eddie, and just
don't sound like me and my husband. I'm like spazzo.
No, he's just like, Stacey, remember your mantra. Remember your mantra. He'll have to remind me every once in a while, because he's just. Sometimes I'm like, can you just throw something against the wall for me? Come on,
So what's the mantra he wants you to remember?
Faith over fear, always.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Fear. What's the worst that can happen? Faith over fear. You just, God's not going to dish it to you if you can't handle it. So
that's true.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious, are any of y'all's kids, and what's the youngest?
Oh my gosh, I was so wishing. So I've been kind of holding out hope, because I have 3 daughters, 3 sons. I was really hoping that one of them would fall in love with the business and want it. And I think that they've kind of lived in it so long that
they're like, no.
But if you look at it historically, most family-owned businesses don't make it past the 2nd generation because it's not their passion.
Right.
I mean, it's not their passion, plain and simple. It's not their passion. So I have an older daughter. She's a homemaker. She has a big Etsy store, makes beautiful sun hats. And she has kids, and so I'm pretty proud of her. And then my next daughter works with her husband. Her husband's a chiropractor, and she helps run his business. She's obviously learned the value of teamwork, because my husband and I always collaborated on the businesses together. That's just what we did.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a cute little munchkin bunkin, and she's pregnant anyway. And then my other kids are kind of still in their college life, so 23 and down. My youngest is 12.
Okay.
And I had 6 because I figured they only have to change my diapers for 2 months of the year. Or they can pass me around and only have to have me once every 6 months. So I'm okay with that. But my 12-year-old, our bonus child, tend to put a little just change in the plans for our retirement plans. But and then I have a 15-year-old daughter who for the longest time was like, I'm never going to work on your business. I never, in the last year has come and she works for me as her job, as her choice. And, but not I don't think to take over.
Not interested in owning it.
Yeah. Business that you can walk in and have an amazing income, but they're not seeing it that way. It's not their passion. And so
my father owned a music store and he ended up closing it down. But none of us, it's like you see your parents work hard and it's like, just don't want to do it. But they learn so many entrepreneurial things that even if they don't end up becoming entrepreneurs, I think the kids of entrepreneurs grow up so differently that they have a different mindset than kids of employees, and they learn so many other lessons.
Well, I think they're all scrappy. I mean, that's not the right, but they can talk to anybody. My kids have had to talk to people since they were here. Like I never had daycare for my kids. When I built my buildings or moved to my locations, I always had a nursery in the back room, and I would plan my appointments around their schedules. And so they grew up here. They grew up interacting with customers. They grew up being what's seen at Stacy's. And that's a blessing and a curse because they were always known as the kids of Stacy's, but they also saw me have to work all the time. Like if an employee didn't show up or there's a big shipment and it needed to go out, it was me at midnight doing it and them right along with it. So kids of entrepreneurs have a different view because they see all the gross work. They don't just They don't see the dad coming home at the end of the day grumpy, but everything else is fine. They have to actually get in and like unbox dresses and steam. And all my kids have worked in the store, every single one of them.
And they know the work. They know that, okay, maybe it looks like somebody has a whole lot of money that owns a business, but they know the work that is going on behind it. The other thing that they see, like you do all of the philanthropic work, and so they see us use our talents and our skills to help people. And so they learn to be generous just from being a part of that. Like with my kids, like back in the 90s, mid 90s, I developed a database of all the accelerated reader books for my kids' middle school because the kids would get in trouble because they weren't reading the right level. Well, the parents didn't know. Yeah. I mean, my son read all the time. I'm like, oh, he's reading. How was I supposed to know? And he was reading too high of a level or too low or whatever. He's reading whatever. So like even back then, I developed a database so that the parents could go online and check. And you
didn't do it because, you just did it because you saw a need and do it. That's what entrepreneurs do. You just, all right, there's a need. Let me.
Exactly. And I remember one of the people at the school said, well, if she doesn't have anything better to do. And I was like, whatever, it's like they just didn't get it at all. Why would anybody want to do it?
Well, and I always say, if you need something done, ask a really busy person because they're going to get it done because they're going to say, yes, I can. All right, I got an hour on Thursday and a 45-minute window on Friday. I can make those work. I can get it done for you because they tend to be busy. And so I always say ask a busy person because we're just going to figure it out. And if we think it's a good, worthwhile thing, we'll find the way to do it.
And we love a challenge. One of the things that I've been working on for a couple of years now, one of my clients is a NASCAR driver. And right after I started working with him at the end of 2018, a veterans suicide prevention nonprofit called me and wanted me to develop a national awareness campaign. Long story short, I went out there and I realized they didn't have any paid employees. And they were doing things like physical and mental health treatment for PTSD and, getting people off of opioids and stuff. And so I was like, I knew if I took one penny, any money I took would come directly out of treatments. Plus, even if they had the money to pay me, you have to have a national platform to do a national. So I went to my NASCAR driver I called his dad and I'm like, I know I'm supposed to be helping bringing in money, but would you put them on the car for free? And so we've been promoting the nonprofit ever since.
Oh, that's so nice.
Both of his brothers are active duty Army, so it's very personal to him. It's personal to me because my husband's retired Navy. So,
Mhm. And also,
one,
don't you find that you tend to surround yourself with people who are like-minded? Like your clients tend to be philanthropic, and because you can work better with people who tend to,
exactly.
mindset is.
Yeah, and the people that get it, that don't just look at things like they are. Let's look at how can we do it different. And the driver's dad and I, we get along so great. We always laugh. We say we share half a brain, but but it's like the ideas just flow. And he made the remark the other week. He's like, whenever we feel like we've almost made it, and it looks like it's going to be easy, we have to throw something in to make it harder again because we like the challenge. But one of the things that we did last year, Stacey, that I'm really proud of, is we crowdfunded to go to Daytona, and we had a $200,000 goal. We beat our goal and were able to pay for stem cell treatments for a veteran who has multiple sclerosis. And
that's so awesome.
I know, it's just like that's what we want to do throughout Colin's entire career. And when the guy back in the fall, he shared he had gone for a 6-month checkup. So 6 months before he had his MRI, which means it had only been like maybe 3 months of getting the treatments. And the MRI then showed no new lesions. Some of the lesions had gone away totally, and others had decreased in size. It was amazing. And so
that impact alone is huge.
Yeah, it is. And it just, it makes you feel good. So for people out there, a lot of times you can do things for people and you end up feeling taken advantage of. What you have to learn is, there are people out there that are like that. You need to just go, know when to say when and go to the next person. But I believe, especially if it happens organically, like, the things that you've found out about, something comes up and you're like, well, let's just figure out a way to make this work. Those are the best things because it connects with you in your heart, and it means that it really helps somebody.
Okay. And a giving person is going to be taken advantage of at some point. You just have to realize what's my level of okay.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it comes down to, is like, where am I okay? Like, okay, that person kind of maybe didn't need as much help as I need the help I needed, but I was willing to give that, so I can't dwell on that. Like I was willing to give that. So, I mean, because we worked with Children's Miracle Network, and we've given away beautiful. We had this gentleman that came in 2 years ago now. A couple of girls just came back and bought prom dresses this year from me, and his Make-A-Wish was prom night. And so we dressed all the girls in his class, and he got a tuxedo from another place, and they got limos, and they created this whole prom night. And his date fell in love with this dress, and I looked at the girls, I'm like, that is literally the most expensive dress in the entire store.
Oh.
And I said, and we're gonna give it to her. And they're like, well, we have a limit. You told Make-A-Wish had a limit. And I said, I don't really care. I mean, look at him. He's so ecstatic because she looks exactly like the belle of the ball. Like they were all in these huge ball gowns. It was like very era. And I said, okay. And they're like, I said, nope, that's it. I mean, like, and it was amazing. And but then you have other people that you give stuff to, and you're like, yeah, I think they're just telling me a lie, and I'm giving them a discount. But oh well, you just have to.
Yeah, because you're not doing it for the getting back. You're doing it because you want to help. And, in the long run.
When you volunteer or when you give or when you donate, I honestly feel like I get more back than what I
agree. Totally agree. Yeah. It's to me, that's worth so much more than any money.
I agree.
So I know we're running up on when we need to go. I know that you have an appointment coming up. What would be like some of your biggest tip or biggest advice, most important advice that you would give people out there who are entrepreneurs?
I'm going to actually give a couple of different things because that's really great question. So when I work with SCORE and I teach people how to start their own small businesses, one of the biggest pieces of advice that I give is surround yourself with the right people. Like, so when I first started my business, I had a great lawyer. I had a great insurance guy. I had a great accountant. And I didn't think anything about interviewing my bankers. I didn't realize I could. I thought you just went to the bank that you had your money in and that was it. I didn't realize that I had a choice. Well, my banker didn't believe in me. And I didn't get, even though I had an SBA guarantee, they refused to fund the SBA loan. Now, long story short, it ended up being the best thing ever because within 8 months, I was actually in the black in my business. And I started with my business with about $183. So
oh my gosh.
I winged it on a prayer and everything else. I convinced a whole bunch of people to give me a whole bunch of credit, and that was fine. But I can only look back at that and say that was my fault. Like, I didn't have the banker on my side. Like, I didn't convince the banker of my skills and my ability to have a good business and my ability to pay the loan back. So that's my fault. So I have to surround yourself with the right people. You have to make sure that no matter what you do, you surround yourself with the right people.
Yes, that's great advice.
Or getting a life coach or a business coach or anything. Make sure that you surround yourself with those people that can help you make those decisions. And then my second piece of advice is pivot. Pivot should always be a word that you have in your vocabulary because I didn't learn it early enough. I always was moving forward. What did I have to do to move forward? What did I have to do to have the biggest business? What did I have to do to have the best business? And I always thought it was taking the next step. I always thought it was expanding. I always thought it was adding to my lines, adding to my store, adding to my offerings. And I never realized that sometimes you just have to pivot away from something, even though it seems like it's a great idea. What is it really going to add to my bottom line? And is the bottom line, what it's going to add to my bottom line worth? How many employees do I need to add? How much personal time is it going to take? I never did any of it. I never did that kind of investigating when I was adding things into my business. And so I didn't pivot early enough. I just kept on growing until I was like, oh, okay. Now I have an 18,000 square foot store and I have 30 whatever employees and I can't do this. Like I physically am a one man. I can't.
Yeah, it's
I need to pivot.
It's like this isn't what I really wanted, because we get so busy building our business that we stop thinking about what it is that we want inside. We're looking at what everybody else is doing and we think this is what I'm supposed to do, right?
If I go back and look at historical data, technically I was making a lot more money a couple of moves ago than I am now. Even though it looks pretty beautiful, I was actually bringing in more cash with less stress before I made some move. But again, can't change that. You just have to figure out, okay, at this point now, how do I pivot? How do I move? Where do I change? How do I ebb and flow? Because I made that decision and I have to stick with that decision. Right? Does that make sense?
And you learned a lot from it too. So great things happened for other people because of it. So
I think that part of my next, if you talk about where are you walking in the future, when I do finally get to pivot and downsize my store, I truly believe that I've been through a lot of these experiences, a lot of this business experience, because as a young female entrepreneur, I think part of my next journey is to go out and teach and help other entrepreneurs to maybe either make the same decisions I did or make different decisions based on my experience.
Yeah, I love that. Yes. Well, we have to talk about doing some events together then, because I love to do online events, courses and things. And my friend Amy is here. Hey, Amy.
Hi,
I'm
Amy.
glad you could join us. Well, Stacey, I appreciate you having the time or giving me the time to be on here. Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
asking me. I had a lot of fun.
I have too, and I'm so glad that I finally got to meet you. So next time I'm in Des Moines, we have to get together.
And I'll give you a good bra fitting.
Oh, okay, great. I need one. Thank you so much, and I will see y'all next Tuesday. Thanks.
Have a great day, guys. Thanks.
Bye-bye.